Much like 2K's NBA games, the Madden franchise is a case study of what happens when a series of games tied to a particular sport has virtually no competition. For years, Madden has been skirting by on the fact that if you wanted to play a AAA football game on modern consoles, there basically was no available alternative. Only that's no longer the case, since EA themselves released College Football 25 earlier this summer. Ironically, through EA's own enterprise, Madden's shortcomings have grown all the more noticeable and intolerable in this year's entry. Not only does Madden 25 pale in comparison to its sister college games' grandeur and features, but it also feels like a step backward even when compared to last year's Madden 24. I bought the Madden 25 Deluxe Edition, normally priced at $100, for only $50 since I bundled it with college football, but after playing it, I wish that I could get my money back. Next to last year's entry, as well as the vastly superior College Football 25, Madden 25 feels hollow, soulless, and uninspired, and I wouldn't recommend it to hardly anyone.
For Samuel, and that one is caught, and he will take this one in. 71 yards, touchdown San Francisco. Well, that is a quick drive and the best way to finish it.
Before we jump into the review, thank you so much for clicking on the video. If you're not already familiar, we here at What's New Video Games like to cover and review new games upon release so that you know whether they're worth your time and money. A like goes a long way, subscribing to the channel goes even further, because it's your support that makes these reviews possible. That's not just pretense, we either have to shell out the money for the game or a publisher is kind enough to give us a copy. And in either case, our subscriber count really matters. Thank you to all of our subscribers, or if you're new, thanks for just being here. Now, let's break down Madden 25. A running theme in Madden 25 is the general lack of effort and attention to detail in its presentation, modes, features, and quality of life. Upon booting up the game, Madden 25's main menu screen looks like I left the HBO Max app open on my television, and it is perpetually running a 60-second promo for Hard Knocks. Presentation before and during games really isn't much to speak of either. You can expect the usual from past Madden games, seeing some of your featured players in the opening intro, probably your quarterbacks standing next to one another, who's going to defeat who in this ultimate epic showdown. And the teams will run out of the tunnels as one of the three announcer crews talks about how big of a game it is, or, well, just nothing that has to do with anything in particular. It's the same old, tired, played out opening, commentary, and graphics routine that we've seen in Madden's past, and it's not implemented here with any more polish. As I said, there are three different announcer crews, but the problem with that is that they've brought in Mike Tirico and Greg Olsen, but there's no way for me to explicitly set the preference to have them commentating across the various modes, and I often get one of the other two, one of which is horrendous commentary, and the sound mixing of the opening of games is often all over the place. I really don't think I can adequately describe what I mean here, so check out this game opener featuring the third string announcer team.
From the home of many a title run and one of the NFL's most successful franchises, you're looking live at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. Alongside Brock Hewitt, I'm Kate Scott, and finally, Brock, we can say it. Football is back. Look at that, we don't practice that. Wins and losses don't quite count just yet, partner, but for a lot of people, us included, we are just happy to see games being played once again. Leading them out, the third overall pick in this year's draft after a decorated career at UNC, it's Drake May.
Yeah, so that's not great at all, and that would be a tremendous understatement. In fact, I think it's pretty abysmal. I mean, you can barely even hear what's going on there between all of the crowd noise, the music, the commentary. I mean, I didn't even know what they were saying half the time, and then the rest of the time, I didn't want to. You might say, well, surely that can be overlooked, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this is a football game. It's got to be about the fundamentals, the gameplay. And to an extent, you'd be right. I don't personally feel like the fundamentals and the gameplay of Madden 25 are really anything to write home about. I think that the camera looks weird. For some reason now when you go to see your play art and it pulls back quite literally. It's got like this fisheye looking effect, and it doesn't really go totally aerial over the top and show you where your receivers are going to run their routes. It looks different and weird, and I don't like it. I also don't know that the animations are particularly accomplished this year. I mean, they've been bragging a lot about how they added all these new animations to the game, and sure, the players do react more to hits and tackles. They sort of lose their balance, regain their balance, things like that. They anticipate hits, they react more to them, their body moves kind of naturally. But then, for every instance of that, there's also instances where their body reacts completely unnaturally, and there's these wild and crazy animations that we've come to know from Madden that just make it look rather ridiculous. So they're not really making any points up in that column, and then that goes back to the fact that you can't really overlook a series of inexplicable decisions inherent in Madden 25's game design that just make the experience that much less enjoyable for players. Like, for instance, I was talking about the commentary crews. I really do not want to be locked into hearing commentary that sounds like, "And the Titans are taking it to the Patriots with another passing touchdown." It just makes absolutely no sense when, after 8 years of having the same commentary crew in every single Madden game, you've brought in Mike Tirico of Sunday Night Football and Greg Olsen of Fox NFL Sunday. It's a fantastic get for Madden, and it's something that we should be celebrating. But I don't get to pick which one I want to listen to, and most of the time, I swear, almost every time, I would get one of the other two crews that I did want to hear, and that just doesn't make any sense. Why would EA not allow players to go into the settings and set their preference of what announcer team they want to listen to?
Here's Young to throw. And he's going to score. Touchdown, Carolina! The Panthers take the lead just before halftime.
I do think that Madden 25 is a step backward from Madden 24, and the primary reason for that involves the three main game modes: Ultimate Team, Franchise, and Superstar. Particularly, there are features that were present in Madden 24 in each of those game modes that are no longer present in Madden 25. And there are also new features that have been implemented in Madden 25 that are just poorly executed to the extent that it actually makes the game experience worse. Let's start with Ultimate Team, and for a game mode that is about collecting shiny new cards, nothing about it is interesting in the slightest, and it just comes off so hollow and soulless. Like, it's so clear that there's nothing for me there, and it's more than likely that there's nothing for you there either. Offering slightly more substance is the Superstar mode, and there's actually not a lot to cover here. It's pretty much the exact same mode that returned in Madden 24 after a long hiatus from the series, except with, well, less. Remember the enjoyable cutscenes with Chad Ochocinco and Coach Prime, Deion Sanders? Well, they're completely scrapped, but everything else is repackaged and repurposed here. So they just left out the parts with the cool cameos and kept everything else because they figured, why not just recycle that? So for the low price of $70, you're getting absolutely nothing new in Superstar mode for Madden 25. Oh, except for these awkward cutscenes where text flashes across the screen in way too large a font, and there's no voiceover whatsoever. The characters just move their mouths. I swear, these things feel like they're AI generated. On the plus side, you can make a supposed NFL superstar that looks like a 40-year-old man who also happens to be a recovering alcoholic. In all seriousness, the biggest selling point of Madden 25 Superstar mode has to be that you can import your Road to Glory player from College Football 25. However, beware of the fact that you can only have one player per position in Madden 25, which makes no sense whatsoever. You can have nearly 20 or more saves in College Football 25 with various different Road to Glory players, but You can only have one quarterback in Madden 25.
Welcome to Madden's NFL Draft.
I'll just come right out and say it. Madden 25's changes to franchise mode are not good enough. Last year, I talked about how tedious and mundane franchise mode was in Madden 24, amounting to a checklist of tasks that weren't actually fun. Madden 25's franchise mode is almost exactly the same as Madden 24, barring a few small additions, and as such, those criticisms still apply. What's most disappointing is Madden 25's poor implementation of its franchise mode's new features. A fancy new draft presentation where Roger Goodell lifelessly stands at the podium and seemingly has no microphone, followed by player after player coming across the stage in almost indistinguishable cutscenes, gets old incredibly quickly. I suppose this would be somewhat eventful with an imported draft class from College Football 25, but as it stands, I get to see second overall pick Tony Soprano? Furthermore, it's not enough that the two biggest draws of franchise and superstar this year are essentially giving a second life to College Football 25, which is by all accounts a better game, and don't allow Madden 25 to stand on its own. Take for instance the new draft interface, which in reality makes things much more convoluted and less convenient in terms of actually finding players based on team need. Likewise, the scouting system in franchise mode feels unintuitive, tedious, and barely even functional. Whereas College Football 25 offers an in-depth and often riveting metagame where you attempt to coerce the top prospects in the country to come to your school while competing with rivals and top competitors, Madden 25 has you hiring and firing randomly named scouts that will purportedly be responsible for scouting the top draft prospects in various regions of the country. Only they don't seem to be incredibly competent at doing their job, since almost all of the prospects on my draft board have somewhere between 60 and 90% total scouting. The implementation of these systems is demonstrably worse than in Madden 24, and it actually ends up making Madden 25's franchise mode inferior when compared to its predecessor. The other main addition to franchise mode in Madden 25 is the introduction of coaching storylines, which are a series of cutscenes that you get to see throughout the season involving your coach either answering questions from media, consulting with their coaching staff, or delivering speeches in team meetings regarding team game plans, player development, plans for trades or contract negotiations, and other matters involving coaching a team. Now, while I'll levy the same criticism as before about these cutscenes not having any dialogue, I will admit that they're a fairly interesting addition. There's only one major problem though. Upon starting any new franchise mode in Madden 25, players are asked whether they want to be a coach or a coach-owner hybrid. Selecting coach-owner gives players access to a bevy of additional features involving the team's financials, including player marketing, team branding and merchandising, overall fan happiness, and even stadium pricing and upgrades. All of these features harken back to the glory days of Madden franchise past, when the mode felt considerably less hollow. However, what I didn't realize is that by opting into these features, I was opting out of the all-new coaching storylines. That's because EA has inexplicably made it to where players cannot have access to both. They have to pick one or the other by selecting either coach or coach-owner. These are features that were available in Madden 24, and there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to access these and engage with the all-new coaching storylines. But you can't. You have to pick one or the other. In this way, the only major additions to Madden 25's franchise mode require players to sacrifice something that was available in Madden 24 in order to experience them. Aside from these inexplicable one step forward, two steps back implementations, the rest of the franchise mode is virtually unchanged, right down to every aspect of its tedious monotony. You'll still have to cut players which probably had no business being on your team in the first place. You'll still have to navigate the same ridiculously unintuitive coaching skill trees, which provide so little impact or benefits that they hardly feel like they're worth investing in at all. Annoying and incessant UI messages prompting me about a player listed on another team's trade block that I should go trade for don't even function properly enough to take me to the actual specific player. Routinely upgrading players is tedious, game day goals make no sense, and you can only sign unrestricted free agents to a minimum deal without being able to set any of the contract terms or their preferences or motivations coming into play whatsoever. Even with the addition of the new coaching storylines, contract negotiations in the offseason take place only in the UI and don't feature any type of cutscenes or direct player interactions. There's just no excuse for this type of rampant corner cutting. Why couldn't EA allow us to sit down across from another player, coach, or GM and discuss the terms of a contract extension or trade like in EA FC 24? Furthermore, why can't I join the NFL with an expansion team a la the Houston Texans circa 2002 by way of an expansion draft where I draft players from all other 32 teams' rosters like in EA's other franchise, NHL 24? It all coincides with the disappointing, uninspired, and underwhelming package that is Madden 25 across all of its game modes. Madden 25 is not a game that I can recommend to hardly anyone, unless of course you're hard-pressed to import your Road to Glory player from College Football 25 into the NFL, and in that case, I suppose it may be worth it to you. But otherwise, I'd rather recommend that you pick up a $30 copy of Madden 24, as you'll probably get more value there. The fact is that even its marginal gameplay improvements aren't enough to salvage this hollow, lifeless experience that shares something in common with the Carolina Panthers, in that the only thing that can bring it back into contention is a full-blown rebuild.
They needed somebody to make that type of play. Now it pushes their lead to a couple of scores and makes a comeback that much more difficult.
For a more engaging football sim, check out College Football 25. And for more on what's new in video games, just subscribe to the channel and watch this space.